Mike, what happened immediately after the earthquake?
Right after the earthquake, I was disoriented. It was dark, and I just needed to get out of my apartment. It was nothing like I've ever felt before. As I was getting out, I heard one of my neighbors yell to me, you know, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Get out, we got to help Norm," one of the neighbors. So I went to go to the front door, and I couldn't open it. It was wedged shut. I asked James to kick the door open. He says, "Don't bother, get out the wall. It's sheared open." I moved my closet door, and sure enough, between the water heater and the wall, there was a big gap I was able to crawl through. Got out on the third floor of the hallway, and we just proceeded to get, you know, any of the survivors we can see.
How many people do you think you helped to safety?
Oh, about 8 to 10 people.
Now, we are still experiencing these strong aftershocks. Just felt one a few minutes ago as we stood here chatting. What goes through your mind when you feel that?
Nothing. This is nothing. Yesterday morning was so different. This is more of a rolling feeling.
Does it keep the tension level high?
No, it's I'm past
Tell me
that.
Has it hit you yet?
No, well, yeah, it has. Yesterday I just kept myself busy because I knew the moment I sat down and relaxed, it would hit me. And it was about 11:30 midnight last night where I sat down and I was in tears. I mean, I had lost some friends and just everything that had gone on, and it really, I lost my home. That's why I'm back here this morning. As soon as the fire department, the police, whomever authorizes that, maybe I can get in there and just grab some of my, you know, personal belongings, pictures, videos, anything small, because there's no way I can get anything large out through what what happened in my apartment.
And where do you go from here?
I don't know. Right now, I'm just going to take it day to day and just regroup. I'll make it.
Mike Kubasi, thank you very much for joining us here. And given that almost half of the victims of yesterday's earthquake died right here in this building, the dust may never settle in the minds of those who made it out alive. For now, this is Pat Etheridge reporting live from Northridge, California.
Pat Etheridge, thanks very much. We will be continuing our coverage here throughout the day of Los Angeles' efforts to repair, rebuild, dig out from under the rubble, to go back to work and resume some sense of normalcy, a very difficult thing to do. There is a real degree of tension here, despite what you just heard in that interview. These aftershocks continue to remind people that this is not entirely over yet, and it's worth pointing out that many of the buildings, structures, bridges, pipelines, that sort of thing that were severely damaged yesterday may be in a weakened state and may be further damaged by the aftershocks as they continue. Nonetheless, the aftershocks are continuing, but to diminish in their intensity, or so it would appear. So people are beginning to breathe a little bit easier, even though they are by no means feeling out of the woods yet. Our coverage will continue. We leave you with this picture from KTLA showing a spot where there is not a great deal of traffic on this freeway at this time. We will be back.
This is CNN.
It used to be America's busiest highway. Now this is what it looks like, so they'll have to tear it apart before they rebuild it in Los Angeles.
Shock turns to frustration as Californians confront the often just annoying effects of natural disaster. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak. I'm Bob Kane at CNN Center in Atlanta.
And I'm Kathy Marshall. In a word, inconvenience. That's what Los Angeles residents face in the many days and months ahead.
One of the world's most car-dependent cities now will have to adjust to life in the slow lane. Bonnie Anderson is in our Los Angeles bureau keeping tabs on the aftermath of Monday's quake. Bonnie.
Well, President Clinton promises not to make traffic any worse today. The White House says he'll avoid the freeways when he visits Los Angeles. He's flying in from Washington to get a look at the disaster he declared on Monday after an earthquake shook the Los Angeles area. It's a good thing he'll keep off the freeways. Whole stretches of the lifelines are closed due to extensive damage. Crews are working around the clock to remove debris and set up detours. California transportation officials hope to have the roads repaired by the end of the year. Until then, car-dependent Californians will have to find alternate routes. 40 people have died as a result of the earthquake. The 39th and 40th victims are a man and a woman whose bodies were discovered in the rubble of their Van Nuys home. More than 2,500 people have been injured. The number of victims represents the highest casualty count for any natural disaster in Southern California this century. Car-conscious Los Angeles faces a long year ahead of traffic headaches. CNN's Mark Watts is at the damaged Santa Monica freeway and joins us now. Mark?
Good morning, Bonnie. The demolition crew at this point has been working for 17 straight hours, and it appears to be ahead of schedule. There is only one lane left standing of what was once a 10-lane overpass that was buckled by the earthquake. And the demolition crew has to tear it all down before streets in this area can be reopened. Chunk by chunk, the Santa Monica freeway is coming down. Soon the nation's busiest highway will be severed, and plans will be made to put it all back together again. A giant chisel is knocking it down, completing the job the earthquake started. And for the residents living here, it is not a pleasant sound as they try to get some sleep.
And I hear big slabs of concrete falling every, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And it's just loud, and I keep tossing and turning.
Deborah Young says it sounds like a jackhammer is in her bedroom.
Have you been able to get any sleep?
No. I'm sitting there now looking out the window down that way to see why. No, I haven't.
President Clinton plans to tour some of the most heavily damaged areas like this one during his visit to Los Angeles. Although the demolition is another headache for a city that's already been hit hard, residents understand it all has to be done.
It won't be that bad once we get used to it. In a month or so, everybody will get the routes down, but still, the freeway's vital.
They started demolition right away, which means they can start construction right away and hopefully get these freeways reopened for travel as soon as we can.
And it's important that the adjacent streets be reopened because they provide motorists clear routes to get from one side of the city to the other. Transportation officials say those adjacent streets to this freeway should be reopened sometime tonight. Mark Watts, CNN reporting live in Los Angeles.
Thanks, Mark. Our coverage continues a little later on in this hour. Right now, back to Atlanta with Bob and Kathy.
Bonnie, thank you. Among the other stories still to come on Daybreak, figure skater Tanya Harding talks to the FBI about the
answer has been no.
So that if they allow us just to come and get like a bag full of our little personal possessions.
Michael and Annette Lasker were more patient. They were content to look, saying in some strange way it was comforting to be here, close to their belongings.
It gives you a certain sense of strength, not so much necessarily physical as much as other senses of strength.
Now that the search for bodies has ended, the search to find new places to live will begin. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And in other news, Bobby Ray Inman has
still in.
They're in quite a bit of danger for the next 72 hours. We just had a 5.5, and then right after that, we had a magnitude in the 5 range, and this is what we expected in the next 72 hours. is very critical as far as these large aftershocks are concerned, I think. And we are hoping that within the next 72 hours that maybe the chances of having something 5 or greater will lessen considerably. These aftershocks can be expected to last for several months, but many of them will be much smaller, and some of them will be so small that people will not feel them in the area.
What is the danger of another major quake in the near future?
My personal feeling is that this is the main shock, the magnitude 6.6 that have occurred. And I'm looking at the pattern that happened in 1971 when we had a magnitude 6.5 just to the north of this earthquake, about 16 miles. And that was the pattern that one followed. And they're in the same general area, and we'd expect the same pattern in this one. So I think the 6.6 is the main shock.
But again, just to be clear, the first 72 hours, the first 3 days after the quake are the most critical.
Yeah, for having the large aftershocks. After that, the possibility of large aftershock lessened considerably.
All right. Tell us, if you would, Mr. Person, exactly what happened here. I mean, for lay people who don't know all the seismological terms, what happened exactly when this quake occurred?
Well, when this earthquake occurred, there was a breakage of rock within the Earth's surface. It was a stretch and strain being released that had been stored up there from quite some time. And all of a sudden, it just popped, and that's why we had this magnitude 6.6 earthquake.
But it's but as you were saying, the Earth continues to settle.
That is correct, and then it continue to settle back down. And when you have a main shock like this, sometimes all of the stress and strain and energy is not released, and they continue to release it in these aftershocks.
What is the I was going to say, what is the historical comparison here? I mean, I know we've heard about the quakes of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and so forth. Where does this one fit in the historical perspective?
Well, this is what we call a strong earthquake. 6.0 to 6.9 is a strong earthquake. The one in 1971 was a 6.5, was a strong earthquake. The World Series earthquake that we had back in 1989 was a major earthquake. It was 7.1. The one we had in 1992 down in Southern California, Landers, was a major earthquake. It was a 7.6 on the Richter scale. But again, it depends on the population, the density of the population, and this is a very heavily populated area where we've had this magnitude 6.6 earthquake.
And as we've seen, that can make all the difference in the world. Well,
that is correct.
Waverly Person at the National Earthquake Information Center in Golden, Colorado, we thank you for being with us.
Okay.
We'll be back with more coverage of the Southern California earthquake and Prime News after this.
Under our complex, picked it up and threw it back down 12 feet and crushed these first floor apartments within 4 seconds of it starting.
Following the earthquake today, many people are facing lots of work and many headaches in the coming days and weeks. Among them, the Los Angeles Police. Our man Greg Lamont is standing by now at LAPD headquarters. Greg?
Well, Bernie, at 4:31 this morning, I'd just gotten out of the shower preparing to go to work when the quake struck. My wife woke up and screamed. My son came running from his room to ours. My daughter was at a slumber party and hopefully got some comfort from her friends. This was not a rolling quake in any way, shape, or form. This was a series of 20 seconds of severe vibrating and jolts. Fortunately for me, the power stayed on, but for 100,000 homes in the Los Angeles area, it did not. For 12 and a half hours later, after the fact, after the 4:31 this morning quake, we're now being told that as many as 24 people are dead. Damage will certainly reach well into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Thousands of people may be forced to stay in shelters tonight, although Governor Pete Wilson says that for half of those who lost power, they should expect to get it back on sometime later this evening. Damage to some of LA's main freeways is quite extensive and will no doubt cause a major traffic nightmare come tomorrow morning. Fires, gas leaks, water main breaks, structural damage, you name it, this quake caused it. And there are plenty of victims, as we hear from CNN's Charles Bierbauer.
In one San Fernando Valley neighborhood, they woke with the quake and fled with the gas break.
Something just like a bomb explode. And then I see the light from the through windows is very bright. So I look at the outside, and then the flames just after my house.
The Lee's house and 4 others on their street were destroyed, but the family of 4, despite its material loss, was intact and uninjured. Others in the San Fernando communities, Northridge, Sylmar, Granada Hills, were injured. Granada Hills Community Hospital quickly filled up and overflowed. The hospital conducted triage in its parking lot.
We've seen at least about 100 people that have come through our triage already, and probably at least another 50 to 75 people that are on premises right now.
There were nearly as many cameras. One radio helicopter landed to evacuate a quake victim to a burn center. Sylmar High School became a shelter for some 200. The school's lunch, the day's first meal. The quake turned lives inside out.
A huge number of households which are without electricity, which have no usable water, and in some cases, massive structural damage, which keeps the people from even spending the night in their homes or apartments.
And businesses upside down.
Somebody has to cover it. I don't have the money to cover this whole thing. You know, it's a big, big damage.
As shocking as Monday morning's wake-up call was, folks in this San Fernando Valley community were quick to recall that they'd been through it before.
33, I was 4 years old, and after 33, my folks said, we're getting out of here, and we moved up into the northern San Fernando Valley. Well, everything was fine till 52.
And then there was the 71 quake.
This was worse, and it was harder. It was a lot harder, and it was very bouncy. It was hard to move. It was hard to get to the kids.
Well, not all had been through it before.
It scared me.
Charles Bierbar, CNN, in the San Fernando Valley.
It could be until the end of the week before we get solid damage estimates. Until then, we will certainly be getting more aftershocks that will keep us on our toes and keep our nerves frayed. And I know at least 2 youngsters who will undoubtedly want to sleep with Mom and Dad tonight. Bernie?
Greg, there have been at least 40 aftershocks since that moment of truth early this morning. There are many people who are not going to go back inside tonight. What are police saying to those people?
Well, police are obviously very concerned about the prospects for looting in the Los Angeles area, given the fact that there is power outages in most of the city, and about half the city won't get power until sometime tomorrow. But as we were driving back from the freeways that collapsed, we noticed a big park where there were many tents of people wanting to stay out of doors. And in situations like this, the police don't really tell the people much of anything other than to do what you need to do to protect yourselves. And if these people feel like they need to stay outdoors to protect themselves and will feel safer in doing so, then they certainly do.
Well, indeed. I don't know about you, but tonight when I finally get to bed, I'm going to sleep with my trousers on. And that's no exaggeration. Thanks to Greg Lamont. Transportation officials will try to find out why 3 highway overpasses collapsed in the earthquake. We're going to pause for a moment and go to our affiliate KTLA for a late report.
Yes. Yes, and you, like I said, you can't help but
They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles that they're loading, so they're taking out everything.
They're taking everything,
pictures
and mirrors.
Well, I mean, they better. That house is a total loss. Yes. When you just look at it. And its proximity to the cliff. It's part of it's already gone.
And as you suggested, Jennifer,
look at that.
Maybe there is some movement that we can't detect that lets them know that that may not be there long.
Right. It didn't seem as though they were actually acting so frantic before when we were over this. Perhaps they were, but we didn't notice it to this degree. And as you can see, they literally are running in and out of the house now.
Now, Jennifer, that is then the part of the house that went over the cliff. Is that correct? Is in the upper portion of the in the middle of the screen.
Yes.
So that's the house that went over the cliff was connected to this, isn't that right?
This is the same house, yes. This is just the portion of the house that went over the cliff.
I recall that I'm quite certain that was the home of Charles Lawton, the famous actor, and there was kind of a semicircular, like a turret that overlooked the Pacific Ocean.
Yes.
And it used to be set way, way back. I remember when driving up the Pacific Coast Highway, you could see that. That's gone. I guess that's what went over the cliff.
Right, the grass and all that, right.
I see people standing down on the beach. There must be some movement down there that we can't detect from the helicopter, because there are people down there on the highway, across on the other side of the highway, looking up rather expectantly.
Right, there's been a couple of people that have now crowded around on the other side of Pacific Coast watching this activity.
Now, where is the highway closed? I just saw one emergency vehicle go by, but I don't see any commercial traffic.
Hal, it looks as if they've closed now both sides of Pacific Coast Highway here, right where Chautauqua meets PCH. Look at the cars. They're having to turn around now.
Uh-huh.
And actually, Martin, are we able to show them just what we found earlier as well? South of this, we found another slide. it doesn't include any homes, but it is another mudslide just a little bit south of this intersection on PCH. There it is, and it's taken over the entire northbound side of Pacific Coast Highway. There are no homes involved in that, but again, that's just a little bit south. So at any point, these cliffs could go here.
Yeah, and I noticed there is no traffic below the city of Santa Monica either, which is up toward the top of the screen.
Right. We went ahead and flew over the Santa Monica Freeway for a bit, and it looks like that they've shut down the highway right about 4th Street, the West 10 at 4th, and you cannot travel north or southbound on PCH now between the Santa Monica Freeway up to about Sunset.
To put things in a little perspective, Jennifer, I've just been told that the Office of Emergency Service informs us that there have been more than 200 aftershocks of 2.0 or better since the main quake at 4:31 this morning. That is nerve-rattling.
Nerve-rattling indeed. Special coverage from one of our 4 affiliates here, KTLA, providing marvelous coverage, and Judy Woodruff and I will be right back with more Prime News and our extended coverage of the Southern California quake. Our affiliate KTTV with some aerial coverage of what's happening in Sherman Oaks.
It is still dark right now at this time.
And all of Southern California, Bob, is in a fire vulnerability window right now for a number of reasons. Most obviously because there may be damaged wiring in these homes. There may be gas lines that have been damaged. When the electricity is turned back on, there may be a spark. Any number of things could happen. It could be just a regular fire. We don't know. But that's what the fire department is looking out for the next 72 hours or so.
That's correct, John. And then the smoke, if you notice here, is just kind of hanging over this fire. That's a pretty good indication, if there's some good news in this one, is that there isn't a lot of wind anyway kicking up right now. Not at this particular time. The wind is just the fire is just sort of the smoke is rather just sort of laying flat over the fire here, and so that is certainly some good news anyway. We can see at least two or three breaches, I believe it is, through the roof there, and there's still some hot flames shooting up through that. So this one is still a long ways from being over.
Yeah, sure is. And on the roof, they get that. I can't see if they're up on the roof there venting it, or if it's just smoke coming through some kind of exhaust. It looks like just regular heating exhaust that the smoke's coming from there.
Yeah, I think it's actually coming through the vents from the air conditioning units or the heating units and so forth. And then there's actually one hole that appears where the flame itself is coming out of. The rest of those little plumes of smoke that you see there are coming from the vents from inside the building itself. By the way, this appears to be at least a two-story building, maybe I guess it's a two-story building from all indications.
So our viewers know where you are. You are over the Moore Park and Fulton area of Sherman Oaks?
Actually in the Sepulveda Basin here in this area.
Basin?
That's correct.
It looks like some residents walking around down there observing. Can you tell that from your vantage point?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I saw some people walking around down there. It looks like there might be residents.
Yeah, there are people out in the streets, as you might imagine. Quite a few police units here as well. We haven't seen any indications of any rescues of any sort going on. No indications of a lot of ambulances that we've seen here either. Just mostly fire crews from what we've been able to tell. It's very, very difficult, though. It's getting darker by the minute here, and it's very difficult to see what exactly is going on.
We do know absolutely that it is a residential building, though, do we, Bob?
It appears to be an apartment complex, would be my best guess there, John. That's what it looks like. It looks like that's what the buildings are around there. Mm-hmm. But the building itself that is actually on fire is engulfed in smoke right now, and so it's very difficult to actually kind of pick it out of the crowd.
Kind of an eerie sight when you see that it's starting to get dark out there, and you know a lot of people are still without power. We understand 1 million homes and businesses are without power, and people are going to be lighting candles and using flashlights. And a reminder to you, if you do have to use candles, be very, very careful, because...
And we should tell you that of the 24 persons killed thus far in this tragic earthquake, 2 of the deaths occurred in Sherman Oaks when a house collapsed on a couple. This special edition of Prime News will be back from Los Angeles in a moment.
At home shopping, we're outfitting everyone in America with great looks. From sophisticated career designs to comfortable casual favorites, we want you to look and feel your best. Complete your outfit with fashionable accessories. Whatever your lifestyle, home shopping has the look you want and at great prices too. Home Shopping Club, where smart shoppers turn.
He was elected to office. He moved to Washington and proved he's the biggest con man there. And that's not a simple task. Showtime presents Eddie Murphy as the Distinguished Gentleman and George Lopez.
Yes, I am the supremest of all the burritos.
Tom Parks.
I think there's news you shouldn't get at 60 miles an hour.
A pair of jokers on Showtime. This month on Continental Cablevision.
Our quality shows.
This is CNN.
January 17, 1994 will be a day Californians remember for a long time. A powerful pre-dawn quake killed at least 24 people, collapsed buildings and freeways, and ignited dozens of fires. We'll have more on the destruction in a moment. But first, my colleague Bernard Shaw, you were in Los Angeles, asleep in your hotel room at 4:30 this morning Pacific time when this happened. Bernie, tell us what it was like.
Well, it was completely frightening, Judy. As soon as it happened, I was jerked awake, and I sat bolt up in the bed, and I just extended my hands and arms to steady myself in the middle of the mattress. It's a king-size bed, and I looked up at the ceiling. I could see the ceiling because I had the drapes parted, and I was just waiting for it to stop, and it is a thoroughly helpless feeling when there's nothing you can do to feel secure or to move. My estimate is that it lasted for about 20 seconds. Officially, we're told it lasted for 30 seconds. I turned on the lamp to see whether there was electricity. There was power. And I pulled the phone into the bed from the bedside table, and I started dialing Atlanta headquarters, CNN. And I think within 3 minutes of reaching the assignment desk, I was punched into the control room, and Bob Keane and I commenced to report what was happening here.
Did you know right away, Bernie, that this was an earthquake? I mean, was it very clear, very obvious that what was going on? And what floor were you on, by the way?
I was on the 6th floor at my hotel, and there was not one scintilla of doubt in my mind because last Tuesday, I felt an earthquake, a minor one. I called the switchboard, and the operator told me, I don't know, Mr. Shaw, I'll check. She put me on hold. She came back and indicated that, quote, those are workmen moving furniture on the floor above. And I said, well, you might think it's workmen, but it didn't feel like that. So as I was awakened this morning, I knew instantly what was going on. I could hear doors slamming and people running down the corridors of the hotel. But I elected to stay in the room and to report as long as I could until we came down here to the Bureau, CNN Los Angeles.
And instead of going and standing in a door jam, which is what we're told is the safe thing to do, you were a good newsman. You grabbed the telephone and called the office.
That's what I tried.
Yes, it was just a natural instinct. Clearly, if the ceiling had collapsed on me, or if there was an indication that the walls were buckling, I would have moved to save my tushy, but since I wasn't in that extreme kind of danger, I decided the first thing to do was to call headquarters and inform.
All right, Bernie, we're glad to hear that. We're going to go right now to a live news conference with Los Angeles Mayor Richard Riordan.
Each individual officer and the supervisors who approve a curfew booking must use their discretion in enforcing this law and must always keep the intent of the law in mind. I must stress that this is a precautionary measure only that will be reassessed on a daily basis. Now at this time, I would like to call on Chief Willie Williams to make some remarks and give, I think, very meaningful advice to the residents of LA. As I mentioned, Chief Williams is the chairman of the Emergency Operations Board and has done a fantastic job. Chief?
Thank you.
Yes, as you've just been hearing, that was Los Angeles Mayor Richard Riordan talking about special measures the city of Los Angeles will be taking on this night when many storefront windows are shattered and they are expecting the possibility of some looting. President Clinton has declared Los Angeles a major disaster area, which clears the way for federal disaster relief. He said repairing damaged highways may be the area's most pressing need once